Hi there everyone, my name's Claire Sparrow and I created the Whole Body Pelvic Health method. This is a program of pre-Pilates exercises that's designed to get you from your pelvic floor not serving you as you would like to being able to do whatever you want to do in life, knowing that you can rely on your pelvic floor to support you in that. We begin with a process of releasing tension and improving your posture so that all the structures in your body can function as they are designed to, so that they can step up and serve you. And your pelvic floor will begin to restore itself just as a result of being in good alignment. And then we're going to strengthen that and really get some feel-good movements in there where your pelvic floor definitely tells you it is awake and listening. Okay. Today we're going to begin in a kneeling position. And if kneeling is not available for you for any reason, you can do this sitting on a cushion on the floor or sitting on a chair or a stool. It's important that in the start position that we are upright. We're not going to do this lying down because that's not how our system is designed. We are upright beings, so it's important that you are from your head to your pelvis vertical. Okay? Place your hands on the outside of your hips and simply breathe. I know it sounds very straightforward, but most of us are not really breathing efficiently for all of the systems in our body that need our breath, and our pelvic floor is one of those. As you inhale, allow this tissue under your hands to very gently expand. And as you're exhaling, there's a gentle narrowing. And yes, I know your pelvic floor is not under your hands here. It's also connected to these muscles that you're feeling under your hands. So it's a great indication of whether or not your pelvic floor is working with your diaphragm. And don't worry if you don't feel a thing, that's perfectly normal too. This class is yours to do as many times as you like to help you to find that and feel that. And through more repetition and awareness and this biofeedback, your body responds, pelvic floor especially, to information coming in. And that's what your hands are doing right now. Great. So before your feet go to sleep, we're going to come and lay down on your back. If you have diastasis as well, where your abdominal muscles separate, please don't worry. This is all perfectly fine and wonderful for you to do because there's a relationship between them. All of these movements will help with that as well. I would just encourage you to go onto your side to roll onto your back so you're not loading and straining those muscles too much. When you come to lie on your back, if you feel any strain around your head, neck or shoulders, pop a folded towel underneath your head to support you here. It's better for you to start in the optimal alignment where there's no strain anywhere than to force yourself to be here. So take that moment to run off and grab something so that you're in a great starting point. Lay your hands on the front of your pelvis, so these bony knobbly bits at the front here. And then your fingertips just fall towards your pubic bone and your thumbs towards your belly button. So we're just getting a sense of where our pelvis is, that center of gravity, which is so important to us. And then start to move very gently down into one hip and up with the other, and then changing to the other side. A bit like a seesaw across your pelvis. Up with one hip, down with the other. And you can imagine that your pelvis is a bowl of warm soup that you are pouring to one edge, one rim of the bowl, and then pouring across to the other. See how that changes the quality of your movement. Really feel that difference. And it's a bowl with a round bottom. So that round bottom is your sacrum, which is a triangular shaped bone at the very base of your spine. Your pelvic floor weaves into the back of it, so it's an important bony landmark to have some awareness of. Now, instead of going side to side across that curved bowl, you're going to circle around it, circling your soup to the rim of the bowl. Or maybe you can imagine that there's a little marble resting on your abdomen between your pubic bone and your belly button, and you roll it to the edges. And then you're going to reverse that direction. So the circle goes the other way. You massage around the other way. And doing this with as little effort as possible. Sometimes we get into a movement, we're keen to make a difference and we exert ourselves more than is helpful, because this is allowing us to actually release tension. So if you're doing it with lots of muscular effort, let some of that go. And then gradually make that circle a teeny bit smaller and smaller and smaller until it winds all the way in and becomes still and stable. When you're still and stable, you're going to take your left leg across your right leg, like the shape of a number 4. And from there, you're going to do that same side to side movement, hip bone up, hip bone down. Now place your arms on the floor, hip bone up, hip bone down, and your legs get to go from side to side also as you do that movement. Feeling how that releases tension around the base of your pelvis. You might be feeling a little tightness and restriction here. And that's going to then just be teased out by doing the rocking. Let's just do 2 more. And then uncross that leg. Notice the difference from one side to the other. I always find that amazing still. And then go to the other side, crossing your leg over in that number 4. And then you go across from one side to the other. Now, the range of your movement, how far you go, is very specific to you. How far can you go whilst gently allowing your shoulders to rest on the mat? They don't need to be forced down, but you only go as far as they can comfortably do that. And then your head may even feel like it's inclined to roll in the opposite direction to that. Don't worry if it didn't feel inclined, if you thought, oh, I hadn't even thought about my head. It's absolutely fine. Keep it in the middle, or you might just by having brought your attention to it, think, oh yeah, it does feel like it can do that. We don't know what we don't know. And so my job is to bring your attention and awareness to things to help you to restore your pelvic floor. Pause in the middle and uncross. Hopefully we're feeling nice and balanced now. Extend your left leg along the mat or the floor. Place your hands on your pelvis. We're doing the same side to side motion again. This time, your right leg doesn't go across as it was in the last movement. It reaches forwards and then you roll back again. You roll into your left leg, it stays on the floor, and you yawn. This is called pelvic yawning. Think about the quality of a yawn. It's that kind of stretchy, almost like an animal when they wake up from a sleep. It's just so amazing the way that they stretch. We have 2 cats and a puppy, and the stretching that they do is just miraculous. When you roll back, always roll all the way back. Let your bottom spread and flop when you come back to that right side. Up and down. So just check, make sure your right knee's going forward, not across. and then go ahead and rest there. Straighten out your right leg. Feel how it's now a little longer than your left leg, just by doing very gentle and simple movements that tease out. So keep your right leg straight, bend your left, and we go ahead to the other side. Your left knee's going forward, your left foot is making a strong footprint on the floor, and you roll across. Like the previous one when we went side to side, you go just as far as you can comfortably. Leave your shoulders on the mat, your right leg's loose and floppy, and you're yawning. Can you look for that quality of yawning open the front of your pelvis, the front of your hips? And you're just going to do that 2 more times and juice it out. Get as much of that stretch as you can, as much of that animal-like stretching. And then bending both knees in, back to that base position. Your feet are just slightly apart. They're not together and they're not miles splayed apart. They're just ever so slightly apart. And then we're going to do a movement called bent knee opening. So we have our hands on the pelvis again, and both knees open to the outside, and then they come all the way back in. You're opening to the little toe side of your feet and then stretching across your feet to the big toe side. So you have the little toe and the big toe assertively meeting the floor. Feeling the spreading of your feet. The breath can be really helpful here. So when you're opening your knees, inhale so you feel that expansion through the base of your pelvis, and exhale like guy ropes are pulling your legs back in and all the way up the middle of your body. And it's that lengthening in and up that the diaphragm does and the pelvic floor does. It's not a squeezing or clenching. It's not really how this movement is designed to impact your body. One more with both legs. So it's symmetrical, it's fairly straightforward. Now we're going to do single legs. We need to keep sending the standing leg into your hip socket as you open the other leg. What you might find is as you open one leg, the opposite hip starts to lift off the floor. That's what we're working on. We're working on preventing that from happening, and not by force, by understanding how to tackle the movement. The leg that's opening, that pelvic floor and that inner thigh needs to lengthen, whilst the other side is just gently falling back into the socket. So think about between your middle passage and your sit bone, where your perineum is that really dense tissue that can lengthen and help to open your leg. And then like a spring or an elastic band, it's going to bring your leg back in again. So we're alternating sides. And I know for sure one side is going to be like easy peasy or easy-ish, and the other side feels like it gets stuck. And that's just the side that needs a little bit more coaxing and information from you. Once more, either side. And less is more. When you're forcing and you feel that resistance is there for a reason. That's your body putting on, it's like your body putting on the brakes to stop you from actually going too far. Okay, bring your feet and your knees together now. So your feet are together, your knees are together, your bottom's nice and loose and relaxed. And that's important because oftentimes we end up using our glutes, our bottom muscles, when we really mean to be using our pelvic floor. So this is going to be called adductor hugs. So your adductors are these inner thigh area here, and they're like a hotline, a direct link up into your pelvic floor. So when you hug your inner thighs together and towards you, that's going to help you to wake up into your pelvic floor.
So we lengthened them out a moment ago. Now we're really hugging your inner thighs in. Pop your hands on your pelvis again, because I know some of you will be tipping your pelvis whilst you're figuring it out. And it's part of the process. You need to do the wonky things to know what you're looking for, to find that sensation that you're needing. So when you hug your legs in, they're kind of turning in on themselves. Like if you were needing the loo and you cross your legs over, it's that kind of crossing over feeling. And if you breathe out when you do it, might just help you get a little bit more awakening. And rest there. Okay, feet back to hip socket width. So we've done lots of things to release, mobilize, set good alignment for your pelvis so that we can then do those strengthening movements. And now we're going to do a little bit of organization around your head, neck and shoulders. Wake them up a little bit. Because your diaphragm is housed in this structure up here, it's important that that basket of your ribs that holds all of your organs, including your diaphragm, is in really good working order, so it's mobile and free. So to start with, we're going to do the butterfly. This is where you're clasping your hands behind your head, you're lifting your elbows to the ceiling, and then reach your elbows out to the side and down to the floor. Reach them out and up, and then out and down. And as you do this, your shoulder blades are getting a really good movement, awakening around your ribs. And you might hopefully feel a little bit of response in your ribs. So when your elbows go up, your ribs are more rounded onto the mat underneath you. And then they might just drift away a little bit as your elbows reach out. And you don't have to touch the floor with your elbows. Mine happened to touch today. I think yesterday they may not have. It's different every day. So go to where there is today. Okay. Make this one your last one to really get those shoulder blades sliding around your ribs. And then we're going to turn on to our side in that position, ready to do some mobility through your ribs and your spine in that area. You've got your hands clasped behind your head, your knees are still bent like they were, but now you're just on your side. You're looking straight forward to begin with, and then you let your head roll back into your hands and roll across the back of your ribs. And gaze to your elbow behind you. And then think of the adductor hug we just did. Hug your knees together to bring you back again. So we get this lovely loose, free movement rolling across your upper back, upper shoulders. Gaze at your elbow behind you. And then we wake up your inner thighs, pelvic floor and beyond to bring you back again. Rolling back. And then adductor hug. One more time, taking it back, and then adductor hug to return. Okay, let's definitely go ahead and do that on your other side. You can roll over, or you can just turn to the other end like I did. So like you were on the other side, you make sure that you have got your gaze straight forwards. And then we go melting back, rolling right across the back of your upper shoulders. Leave your lower elbow on the floor. And your arms are cradling your head so you can be really free and liberal with that movement. And the return back to the start position, you go ahead and you do that top thigh, that adductor hug, to bring you back again. All the way back again. Your gaze follows the back elbow. And your breath is flowing freely. Don't worry too much about having to breathe at certain points. Just make sure you are breathing. Often when we're concentrating, we do end up holding our breath. I'm never holding my breath because I'm always talking. One last one. And then rest there. Okay. So we're going to do a couple of movements for your around the outside of your pelvis, awakening the muscles from the outside of your hips. We're going to go ahead and start on the side that you're on. You're still in that zigzag kind of position, but now your top hand comes onto your hip. So your top hand is on your hip. Your feet are going to be flexed, so your toes are kind of pulled gently back towards your shins. And then go ahead and float the top leg up and then straight down. This is called the fire hydrant. When you're floating your top leg up, your bottom leg is going to be coming down into the floor and nothing is happening underneath your hand here. So your hip's going to be tempted to hitch up, and we're not going to be doing hip hitches today. We're literally just doing our fire hydrant straight up and down. What you might also find is that your heel comes up before your knee or knee before your heel. I really want you to come parallel up. When you're lifting your leg and the bottom leg is going down, your inner thighs have to be lengthening. There's some give in there. And even if you don't kind of resonate, doesn't make sense to you, just think about it and your body will respond anyway. We talked about your perineum earlier, and it's that length of your perineum here. So we're going to do just two more because I know this can be quite awakening for you. And it's important that we do work through the whole body, the whole pelvis, and not just isolate in the pelvic floor on its own. Okay, because there's teams of muscles and teams of connective tissue all over the body that need to be addressed. Hand on your hip, feet flexed, up and down, fire hydrant. We can think back to the beginning when we were sitting up and making sure that our back was tall. You can imagine that you're leaning back to back with somebody, so we're not curled in, you're looking forward. Like the other side, your bottom leg needs to really be going down into the floor and thinking about that release, opening. Exactly, it's quite different. I know it's shocking. You think, wow, that's weird that I can just think about that little thing and it changes the movement quite radically here. And if you feel more confident on this side and you think, oh yeah, I could coordinate the breathing here, it would be inhale, open, exhale, close, inhale, open, and then exhale, close. Thinking of your perineum lengthening, middle passage to sit bone. And it's also normal for one side to feel fatigued more quickly. And there's lots of different reasons for that. Sometimes it's just because it's already learned a bit. It's been figuring that out whilst you did the other side. And of course, we're slightly imbalanced, so you might just be stronger on one side than the other. Two more. All of the things. And then rest there. Coming up to sitting now, your legs are just going to be swept to the side here, like Cleopatra sitting on a rock somewhere. And we're going to do a breathing exercise here. You're grabbing onto that front shin, the shin that's towards the outside, and then your top hand is going to reach over your head towards where your feet and your shins are. And then you press into your shins and feel this beautiful opening on that side of your body. Now, sometimes it makes us push our ribs forward. You're just going to let the back of your ribs really open as well as the side of your ribs. So you're not arching your lower back, and just be here and breathe. And you're going to imagine a balloon underneath your ribs. And you're inflating that balloon in all directions. You're looking straight forward. And then rest. Wow. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side, or you'll be left lopsided. So you sweep your legs to the other side, you grab on, take your arm over, and then it's like you're pushing your legs away from you, and that creates that balance point to open up and tease out. And it's a bit like, you know, the yawning we were talking about before, or if you can imagine, you know, stringy cheese like a fondue. If you pull it quickly, it'll just rip away from the fondue. But if you go slowly, that stringiness goes on forever and ever, and it gets more and more. And that's what we're doing really here in your body, is we're trying to allow it. We're not trying, we are. We are allowing it to expand. And really improving the movement and the posture of your ribs is going to be huge, very impactful for your pelvic floor. And then relax. Okay, coming on to all fours. Hands are going to be underneath your shoulders and your knees are under your hips. So that means your knees are narrower than your hands. Spread your hands so they're like stars on the mat rather than closed fingers. And your first finger is pointing straight forward, which just allows the weight to go a bit more into your little finger side and takes any pressure that might be there off. Then we're going to do a cat stretch. We're going to start really basic with your tailbone curling under, and then the rest of your spine travels into that curve and stays there. Then you send your tailbone out again and you lengthen out like your spine is strung together with elastic pulling in both directions. And again, your tail comes out and around and under. Think of your spine being strung together with elastic, and we're stretching that elastic out here and equally stretching that elastic out head to tail as we come out again. We're going to go into that stretch and stay there. Tailbone comes under, you're stretching out. Your head is the very last thing. Now we're going to keep this shape that you're in, and you're going to tuck your toes under. So you're tucked under, so your toes are as much under as you can, and then rock your body back and forth. Really rapid rocking. Make sure that your knees are coming towards each other rather than pressing out, and that's going to really help you to waken up your pelvic floor muscles as we do our rocking cat. Your pelvis is going to want to stick out, and you need to keep sending your tailbone in all the time. It's going under rather than sticking out. Bring it right under. The other thing you can think about is your pubic bone lifting up towards your belly button. That's another great way to awaken your pelvic floor here, and then rest. Wow, that is warming, to say the least. It's warming. Coming to sitting now. You're going to sit with your feet on the floor in front of you. This really helps if you've got a sticky kind of mat. If not, if you've got a pair of slippers that have got sticky bottoms on them, you can put your feet in your slippers. It doesn't matter. What you need is just something with a bit of traction to push into for this to work most effectively for you. Bring your feet and your knees together like the adductor hug that we did earlier. We're going to begin there. You're going to have your hands at the back of your thighs and be seated, just as tall as you can be seated. And if you feel really kind of squished in and uncomfortable there, just get a towel, fold it over a few times just to boost you up here. Or if you've got a mat like I have, you can just fold your mat over anything to just get you a bit more comfortable. So hugging your knees, feet are on the floor, hands are on the back of your thighs. You're going to imagine a book on your head, and you're going to balance that book Or you could imagine a glass of champagne or something exciting like that you can balance there to have after. And you press your feet forwards so that in turn, in response, your pelvis rolls back, and then you're coming to sit tall. So you're hugging your knees, you're pushing the floor, and your pelvis will just drop back a little bit. We're not hunching, scrunching, or shortening. We're doing the same exact thing we just did with the cat stretch, where we were lengthening. We thought about our spines being connected by elastic and how really that creates much more sense of length, and that's what we're doing here. And it takes a few to get it figured out, so don't feel like you have to get it on the first one. You're going to practice this a few times to get the sense of it. Remember your champagne? I'd forgotten mine, I think I got soaked. Keep reaching the crown of your head to the ceiling, almost like you're not losing any height as you do it. Let's do it 2 more times. Excellent. Okay, we're on the home straight now. You've done amazing, because these are really new concepts for you to take on board. And you've got the class, as I said before, so you can practice this, and the next time and the next time after that, you'll get a little bit more clarity with it. You're coming into a lunge. If balance is an issue here, just be near a chair or a wall or something where you can just hold on with fingertip touch. The other thing to be aware of with balance is to make sure that your knee and your foot are at least hip socket width apart, so that you're not actually making life harder for yourself, okay? So you've got your shin long and your foot long behind you. Your other foot on the floor is forwards of your knee at the beginning, because we're going to do a little bit of a lunge with that. So all you do is send your back leg back, and that will make you go forwards. That's it, exactly. And we're doing it very much parallel, like double yellow lines, as we go forwards and back. That's it. Let's do it once more like this. And of course, if you've got any discomfort with your knees, just pad your knees. Now we're going to turn our feet into a different angle. So the foot behind comes across and the foot in front, the toes come out, and it's the same thing. You're sending that shin out behind you, and this is much more like the pelvic yawning that we did at the beginning. Yawning it open, teasing it out like that. Once more like this. And then we switch so that your toe at the front, toes turn in, and this is definitely where I need the balance support, and the back knee points in also, and we're going forwards. This one will feel like there's reduced range, and you might feel like this right hip is hitching up, and that's where you just can drop it down and forward, just gently teasing that out, gently teasing that out. Your hands can be on your hips or reaching out for balance if that's useful. One more time, and then rest there. And just on your knees, you can feel already the difference that is. And then taking your other foot forwards, hip socket width apart at least, foot forward of your knee, and then just the plain rocking to start with. Sending your shin back to bring you forward. And this bottom, really watching for it. It needs to drop forwards rather than up. And make your range of movement according to that. So don't push through in a faulty alignment. And then we change so that we're toes slightly out and at the front and across at the back. And again, this is like the yawning that we did earlier. Sending your sit bone forward, pelvis forwards. Lovely. It's like a runner in the starting blocks almost, getting ready. And then switch so the front toes turn in and your knee will go across and the back toes go out And again, it's that sending your back shin back to bring you forwards. And there's a real sense of crossing. Like we said earlier, like if you needed the loo and you were crossing your legs, this is the same kind of feeling here. And working on, again, releasing the tension in the areas where we compensate and we miss out on the pelvic floor doing the work. All right, resting there. Coming back to kneeling and coming into that kneeling position that we were in at the beginning to compare just how it feels at the end of our little taster class today compared to how it felt at the beginning. Taking a few breaths into the side of your pelvis like we did at the beginning. And then we're going to finish there for today. We often do a series of standing movements as well, and if you join me on the course, you'll be introduced to so many more varieties of movements and different types of classes as well. This one is for you, it's yours to keep. You can do it as many times as you like. You'll get more and more out of it each time that you do it. Any of the pelvic health work that we do is meant for longevity. You are not going to get a quick fix. This is something where you put your heart and soul into making a difference in your own life, and this is simply the beginning of that. It's been wonderful to share this with you. It's just a drop in the ocean. I have so much more to share. I can't wait, and I will look forward to seeing you again really soon. Bye everyone.